Shalom. I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rekak Wadash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. All right. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and go in on Daniel, the 3rd chapter today. And let's see. Salaki, let me get the music going a little bit. But Daniel, the 3rd chapter, dealing with the fiery furnace, right? So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and get that going. Let me see. I'm going to start at verse 1. And it reads, Nebuchadnezzar, the king, but he was the king of Babylon, made an image of gold whose height was 60 cubits and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it upon the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the princes, the governors, and the captains, and the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. So this has always been a heathen thing, a heathen practice, right? They honor themselves with, statues, with images. And modern day, it's going to be that RFID hip. This is going to be the way they're going to honor themselves and really trying to create that new world order, right? The great reset that the wicked elite are planning. It's the same spirit that Nebuchadnezzar had on him. It's the same spirit that the Greeks had on them when they were trying to make all people one people. So this is the same thing, he gets together all his rulers, governors, counselors, treasurers, sheriffs, judges, the whole nine, right? Let's keep reading. And it's all about the dedication that he had set up, meaning it's to honor the image of gold that was in his likeness. Verse 3. Then the princes, the governors, captains, and judges, and treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up, and they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then an herald cried aloud, To you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages. So it's dealing with all the nations, because Babylon was just like Rome and just like America. It had all kind of different nationalities, heritages, races, right? You had what you call a melting pot in Babylon, in Rome, and not just like America. It says, verse 5, at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. So they were commanding the Babylonians, which Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon. He said, hey, once you hear this music playing, you gotta fall down and worship. Meaning worship the golden image that he set up, which was dedicated to himself, right? So let's keep reading. Whoso falleth not down and worshipeth shall the same hour be cast in the midst of a burning fiery furnace. All right, so if you didn't fall down, if you didn't bow down to this image which Nebuchadnezzar had set up, Then you were going to be thrown into the fiery furnace, meaning you were going to be put to death. And there's something that's about to happen in America, which is going to be similar to this, and it's going to be dealing with that RFID CHIP, all right, which is the mark of the beast. And eventually, if you don't, they're gonna introduce it, and at first, it's going to be an option, right? Just like they did with the jump shot, with the Novid, right? With the Crown Vic. They said, hey, this is optional. You don't got to take it. But then they moved to where they were saying it's mandatory. You have to take it if you want to keep your job, if you want to keep your, if you want to enter a restaurant, if you want to go to the theater, if you want to go to the gym, whatever it is, you had to have that jump shot, right? And this is the same thing right here in ancient times. I got to go back to this scripture in Ecclesiastes. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. So there's no new thing under the sun. The heathen have always tried to implement this type of bullshit on all the people, making them bow down, making them worship, making them, take a mandatory RFID CHIP, which that's not here yet, but it's right around the corner. If you have the spirit to see it, you can see it, That's why they're crashing the banks. That's why they're ordering hits on guys like the Cash App guy, right? The CEO of Cash App, because they want to have all control when they introduce their digital dollar. All right? This is all the same shit, man. No new thing under the sun. And it says in verse 6, if you don't, and whoso falleth not down and worshipeth shall the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. All right? So when you tell these Edomites that you don't want to take that RFID CHIP, that you don't want to get that grain of rice put in your forehead or in your hand, well, guess what? They're going to have a alternative for you, and it's going to be death. Verse 7. Because you're going to be a detriment to society at that point if you don't bow down and take that grain of rice in your hand. All right? You're going to be an outlaw if you don't have it, a fugitive. Verse 7. Therefore, at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and all kinds of music, all the people, the nations, and languages fell down and worshipped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Wherefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. Right? And these are going to be like those Edomites coming accusing us, saying, hey, there's certain men that have avoided this new law. Right? Verse 8, this new decree that's been put out among all the nations, just like America. You're going to have all the nations are going to come under this, what we call the hour of temptation. I should say what Yahweh calls the hour of temptation. Revelation 3 and 10. This is Yahweh Shai speaking. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation which shall come upon you, which shall come upon all the world, to try them that dwell upon the earth. And what is that hour of temptation? It's going to be that moment when you either have to take that micro CHIP, that grain of rice, or you reject it. It's going to be tempting because people are going to be put to death for it. But those that endure are going to be blessed. Are of the elect. The elect won't be tempted. The elect will be tempted, but they won't take it. Because why? We've been building up our spirit, and we know not to take that thing. Just like in Daniel chapter 3. You have examples of men with integrity who did not fall down and worship that golden image which Nebuchadnezzar set up in the ancient time. in the time of Babylon, ancient Babylon. Current Babylon, Babylon the Great, is also going to have their wicked device. All right. Let's go to verse 3 and 8. Wherefore at that time certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. They spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. So you got them kissing their ass, kissing Nebuchadnezzar's ass. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. So they're reminding, right? They said, hey, you said once they hear this music playing, they got to fall down and worship the image. 11. And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth, that he should be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. So you had men who had integrity here in Daniel chapter 3 who did not bow down. Because you had a lot of Israelites. You had the 2/3. You had a lot of our people who were hearkening to the commandment of the king. All right, they were bowing down. They fell down and worshiped the golden image. But you got to remember, the Lord always preserves his elect. He always preserves his faithful ones, if you will. Right? Let me get his precept. Let's go to 1 Kings 19 and 18. And this is a reoccurring thing because, like I told you, there's nothing new under the sun. 1 Kings 19:18. Yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which hath not kissed him. You see that? And 7,000 deals with the complete number, so it's more than 7,000. It just 7 means complete. But he says he has left 7,000 who have not bowed unto Baal, which in this example, in Nebuchadnezzar's case, it's the same thing. Anything that's anti Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai can be considered Baal, right? A demon, an idol. The heathen gods all could be considered Baal, idols. Things that we shouldn't, as Israelites, we should not be bowing down to. So we go back to Daniel 3. And 13, because Nebuchadnezzar was told, hey, these dudes are not bowing down, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But remember, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai always preserves men from the house of Israel who are not gonna worship the heathen gods. And that's the same thing you have right now here in Babylon, America. When we have that wicked device presented to us, we ain't gonna take it. Because why? Because we know the truth. We've been built up in the truth. And we have integrity. And we have faithfulness and love towards Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. All right, verse 13. Then Nebuchadnezzar in his rage and fury commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. So Nebuchadnezzar was pissed off because these men of Israel were not bowing down to him or his image. Verse 14, Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, It is true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now if ye be ready at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, but if ye worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is the Most High that shall deliver you out of my hands? Right? So he's threatening them. He's like, is your God going to deliver you when I put you in the fiery furnace? Verse 16. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. They didn't give a fuck. They had faith. They were built up in the spirit. They had the spirit of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai in them. That's why they're like, we're not careful. We don't give a fuck how we speak to you. Verse 17. If it be so, our power whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. See, so they were like, we ain't gonna, they had, like I said, they had integrity, they had faith. They were built up in the spirit of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Just same thing you see happening in today in modern day Babylon, America. You have men who are building up their spirits, and we are not going to succumb to these devils when they present us in that hour of temptation, that wicked device, that RFID C-hip. Right? And I hope this video doesn't get pulled down, because as many times as I'm mentioning that. Verse 19. Then Nebuchadnezzar, full of fury, and the form of his visage, which is visage is your countenance, your face, was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was wont to be heated. So he turned up the heat on that furnace because he was so pissed off. This is how Esau is. He's going to be mad at us, man. He's going to be mad that's why he's going to seek to kill the prophets. He's going to seek to kill the men of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. It's prophecy, man. It says that Esau Edom is going to seek to kill the prophets of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Okay? Let me see. All right, verse 20. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen, their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, and the furnace exceeding hot, the flame of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So the men who bound them up, they got taken right away because it was so hot. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the midst of the fiery furnace. This is some supernatural power of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai right here that we're about to read. Then Nebuchadnezzar, the king, was astonished. He was astonished, surprised, and rose up in haste and spake and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the son of Yahweh. Right? So when he looked into the midst of the fire, he saw the 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he also saw what was like an image of Yahushai. Right? Yahushai was with the men who kept their integrity. Right? Let's get this real quick in Zechariah. Zechariah 13 and 8 and 9. This is talking about the elect. This is talking about the 1/3 that's going to be saved during Jacob's trouble. That's going to have salvation, right? When the end comes, when the missiles, when World War III is happening, we're in the midst of the fire. This is what I'm about to read. Zechariah 13:9. And I will bring the 3rd part through the fire. The 3rd part of what? The 3rd part of Israel. And will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. And they shall call on my name, and I will hear them, and I will say, It is my people, and they shall say, Yahweh is my power. Right? So he's going to bring us through the fire. In the story I'm reading in Daniel, it was a literal fire. And hey, who's not to say he's going to, deliver some of the elect right out of the fire, that they're going to continue living. Some of us are going to be taken up before the missiles. Hey, some of us may be taken up as the missiles have already been hit. We don't totally know that yet. Right? But nonetheless, if you're of the elect, you're going to have that spiritual power just like these men did. in Daniel chapter 3, where the fire did not affect them. It didn't burn them. And Yahushua was with them. And Nebuchadnezzar saw Yahushua when he looked down into the furnace. All right. Daniel 3:26, it says, Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High Power, Yahweh, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the midst of the fire. And the princes, governors, and the captains of the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was an hair of their heads singed, neither was their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. Kahala Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai. You see that? Not even a hair was singed, man. Why? Because these men were the men of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai. They had protection. The fire had no power against them. Esau don't have no power against us, man. When we come into this spirit of truth, when we have the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai on us, there's no power that Esau has against us, man. But you got to have that faith like these men did. They were willing to go into the fire. They didn't know when they went in, they just were willing to die. But they went through the fire. And because of their faith and their integrity and their obedience, because they didn't bow down, they didn't fall down and worship no fucking heathen god or no heathen image, right? You can't be just moving with the sheep, right? You're gonna have a lot of Israelites who are gonna bow down. They're gonna take that grain of rice. They're gonna take that micro sea hip, and they're gonna get put to death. All right. You're also gonna have the elect, the 1/3 that's gonna move through the fire, and the fire and Esau Edom will have no power against us, just like in ancient times when Nebuchadnezzar had no power against the men who had integrity. All right, verse 28. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the power of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who hath sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own God. Verse 29. Therefore I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no God that can deliver after this sort. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. So, they got promoted, right? They were rewarded. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai was all through the spirit. But guess what? Esau Edom is so wicked and so vile, he's not going to have a spirit like Nebuchadnezzar did to actually promote them. No, he's gonna still want to kill us. That's the only difference between these heathen who are the Edomites and the heathen we're reading about, which were the Babylonians. You got to understand, Esau Edom is the most wicked nation ever to exist. Nebuchadnezzar, he at least had the reverence to promote these brothers when they were, passed through the fire without being harmed. Esau Edom, he's so wicked, he's not going to do that for us. But guess what? We just got to keep our trust and faith and our obedience to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and Lord's will, he's going to save us out of that, because Lord's will, we are those men. With that, I'm going to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor, all the love unto Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai Bahashim Rekakwadash. Double honors goes out to the other apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect. Shalom.